What's up, my producer friends? I'm David with anothermonsterproductions.com. So I made an ear training app, and before we get into exactly how this app actually works, I want to briefly talk about the reason why I made it in the first place. So if you've been following the channel for a while, you're probably aware of the fact that I haven't really been posting on YouTube very frequently over the past several years. And that's something that I would like to actually start doing more frequently. So hopefully that happens in the near future. However, one thing that a lot of you probably aren't aware of is the fact that I've been teaching private lessons behind the scenes for probably about the past 6 years or so now, which, by the way, if you're interested, you can sign up for the lessons on my website. I'll leave a link in the description. But one thing that I've realized after teaching lessons for so long and having lesson students with varying degrees of expertise is that the number one skill, in my opinion, that you can develop as a music producer is to have a good ear. And so that's something that I really like to focus on in my lesson program is ear training. And I recommend various ear training exercises with my students. I've actually done a lot of videos on the channel talking about various ear training exercises, a lot of which are the same ones that I share with my students. One being actually a website called soundgym.co, which is kind of like gamified ear training exercises, which I think can be pretty fun to do and also pretty beneficial. If you haven't heard of that, I'll leave a link in the description. You can check that out on your own time. But actually, one of the most useful free exercises from soundgym.co is a game called beatmaker. And the way that this game works is you listen to an audio clip of some sort and it creates an EQ boost at various points on the frequency spectrum. And then you have to determine where you think the boost is occurring on the frequency spectrum. So that's kind of where I got the idea for this particular app in the first place. One of the things that I find frustrating about beatmaker, especially on the free tier, is all the music is very like basic, rinky-dink, not really anything you'd ever listen to. And so in my mind, I'm thinking this is great, but it would be even better if you actually were able to listen to it or listen to music that you want to be listening to and whatever your preferred genre is, or even listen to your own tracks. Basically, you're listening to music that actually translates to the type of music you're interested in, which will help train your ears even better when you're doing these types of exercises. So that, plus the fact that I realized I could literally just use ChatGPT to help me create a web app, got me started on this idea of making this app. So if you go to my website, anothermonsterproductions.com, and I'll leave a link obviously to this in the description as well. But if you want to go to ear training, go to EQ Trainer. That's the name of this app. Now, what will happen is when you come here for the first time, it's going to walk you through a tutorial. You probably don't need to do this since you're watching this video, and I'm going to show you how it works anyway. If you ever want to check out the tutorial instructions, you can always just hit this I and it'll walk you through as well, kind of show you how everything works. But basically how the app works is you can upload a track here. So in this case, because of YouTube, I'm just going to use one of my tracks, a random one. This is something that I was working on a while ago. So it's going to start playing some audio. You can go ahead and hit pause here. You also have a volume, obviously, and then a seek function. The way this seek function works is you can move the track to anywhere you want. I recommend going ahead and finding like the chorus or basically the section of the song that has the most going on, because it's easier to hear where the frequencies are being boosted or cut based on, the full frequency spectrum, basically. And then from there, basically this game is going to create either a boost or a cut at random. And you have to decide whether or not it's a boost or a cut or none. You can use this bypass button to help you determine what it is. It'll make sense as I start to play it a little bit. And then let's say it's a boost. So you have the slider, which you can use to guess basically which frequency you think it is. Now, the way that I programmed this, it only goes down to 100 hertz and it only goes up to 10,000 hertz. Now, as you continue to level up, once you get to level 10, you will unlock a low pass filter. And then when you get to level 15, you'll unlock a high pass filter. So that'll make it a little bit more difficult as you continue to play the game. Also, each game is 10 rounds total. And then once you get to the end of the 10 rounds, it'll give you a score. And depending on how well you do, you may or may not unlock various titles. So for example, if you get over 700, you'll unlock EQ Pro. If you get over 800, you'll unlock EQ Expert. And if you get over 900, you'll unlock EQ Master. So let me go ahead and play this game a little bit and kind of show you how it works. By the way, so bypass off obviously means that the EQ is being applied. That means that the EQ is on. So when you're turning the bypass on, that means it's bypassing the EQ effect, so you're hearing the song as it originally was. Oh yeah, and one thing I forgot to mention is that you have a random chance, like if you get really high, a certain high enough score, and then also you get like a really close answer, then you can unlock random themes. So just another sort of fun thing that I added in here, but I kind of like the main theme the best. So then you can share your score if you want, share it on Discord, whatever. But yeah, that's basically how the game works. I do think that having the contrast of the boost and the cut makes it a little bit more difficult than just a boost all the way across the board. Let me know what you think of the app. One thing I didn't mention is that I've really designed this to be a web app and to be used on the computer, preferably like in the context of your studio where you're listening on studio monitors or studio monitor headphones. Obviously, this is an ear training exercise. So anytime you're doing ear training exercises, I recommend that you're doing it on the equipment that you're actually going to be producing on. I know for a fact it doesn't work on my iPhone. I haven't really tested it on an Android phone. Again, my intention was not really for this to be a mobile app anyway. I may decide later on to try and update that depending on how many people are actually interested in that feature. Also, as I mentioned earlier, there are a couple other ear training exercises which I think can be really useful. So if you're interested in learning about those, I'll have a video pop up on the screen right now, which you can go ahead and click on to learn about that.